Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
The big boss man himself came down to the protest, the Yahoo Nation protest, the anti-lockdown protest in Toronto on Saturday morning. And well, we spent about 5 hours, I think more than 5 hours, following the protesters. There was good news and bad news. The good news is the police modified their behavior somewhat. The bad news is I don't think Toronto really is as free as it should be. And without further ado, Ezra, what did you make of witnessing the police and the interaction with the protesters firsthand?
Well, thanks very much. And first of all, thanks for hosting the show this week. And I just want to tell folks, obviously I'm here in the studio. I'm working on finishing up a new book. And just the hours a day that I spend on the show and other things, it just wouldn't get done. So I really appreciate you filling in for me. But I'm just a couple doors over, so I will be popping in every day to say a quick hello. And I appreciate the viewers waiting for me. I hope that the book is worth your wait, and my goal is to finish it up this week. So I just want to get that out of the way. I went down, first of all, thank you for going down for 10 months in a row for these protests, and I've watched it with great interest. I either watch the video we produce, or sometimes I try and follow it in real time on my phone. And last week was so disturbing, like 10 days ago, was so disturbing to me to see what can only be called police brutality. Yeah. And the absolutely shocking video, not just of you and our other journalists being physically pushed, but the insane arrest and physical brutishness shown by Toronto police. It truly is reminiscent of what we see in Russia these days with some of their political policing. So I went down on Saturday to show my solidarity with you and the others, but to witness with my own eyes what the police were going to do, and to talk to, if I could find any, commanding officers, to let them know with great clarity that if they touch our team, they will get a legal reaction from us. And this is, we've already sent them a legal demand letter. We've sent lawyers letters warning them. So I was there to see with my own eyes how bad it would be or wouldn't be, and to talk directly to the cops. So I wasn't there really to report. I didn't have a mic. I mean, you've been doing a great job for 10 months. I was there to watch the police. And to my mild surprise, they seemed to have pulled in their talons a bit. Now, partly because it was more a marching protest than a static one, I think. So after we spent about 5 hours there, I mean, I got some great exercise. I enjoyed
As
that.
did I, yes.
But I went home and my worst fears were not realized. That said, I don't think that the police department has properly addressed their past violence. I don't think they've knocked you around physically.
No, and I was very fortunate that way, and they also addressed what was, let's be honest, Ezra, a lie going back a week ago Saturday, where they said essentially freedom of the press has been suspended at Yonge Dundas Square. That miscommunication was clarified about 48 hours later, and you were very adamant that we were going to cover this come hell or high water.
Yeah, and when I first presented at these various locations, I would look and find who appeared to be the most senior officer. It's hard to tell sometimes because of how they were dressed, and I am not an expert in the different uniforms. But I did find some people who seemed to have the age and stature and rank. And again, to my mild surprise, they were very pleasant. They were not aggressive in their language. I mentioned to several senior officers that their stance of 10 days ago saying free press was suspended, they acknowledged that that was incorrect and that they've corrected it. I told them that if there were any assaults by their people, we would sue them. And I didn't say that in a threatening way. I just said, be on notice. I also said, by the way, don't do that to other people too. But I was there to make sure our team was fine. And it looks like our team was untouched on the weekend. But can I share a couple other anecdotes just while I was down there?
100%. And by the way, we should point out Kellyanne Wolf was arrested again, and under dubious charges. She was, I guess, the ringleader. And once she was gone, the march sort of marched off on a nameless direction. You and I experienced that.
It sort of zigzagged around. It was good exercise, but Here's a few observations I made that I probably wouldn't have made just watching things from home as I usually have done.
Yes.
The first is a shocking reminder of the decay of Canada's greatest city. And when I say greatest city, it's the largest city, the richest city, the city of the head offices, the media and banking center, it's the fashion center. Toronto, I mean, I'm a Calgary boy, so I have a rivalry with Toronto, but by most measures, you would say Toronto is the greatest city in Canada. It's the fourth largest megalopolis in North America. It is an outstanding city by some measures, but to see its decay. We're there at Yonge Dundas Square, which is like the Times Square of Toronto.
Correct.
And we see all these cops ready to take on anti-lockdown protesters. And the first thing that happens is a guy comes up and asks me and one of our journalists, Alex, where's the Works? The Works. And Alex thinks, oh, that's a hamburger shop called The Works. And he says, oh, and the guy says, no. It's a shooting gallery, man. I want to go shoot drugs.
Yeah.
He said that, and we both were shocked. And then we see another lady on the ground, just planting herself right in the middle of Yonge Dundas Square and setting up all her gear to start shooting drugs right there.
Yep.
And I swear there were a dozen police cars and 20 or 30 officers right there.
Yep.
And she was right there.
100%.
So my first thing was shock at that. Then we walked to, on our journey, we walked by Trinity Bellwoods Park, which is a beautiful, large park that's much beloved in Toronto.
Yep. Not by me after what that dog did to me.
But it goes to that. And I saw all these tents there.
Yeah.
And we walked by other parks that I don't know the name of.
Yeah.
And and these are not campers.
No.
These are vagrants, homeless people. Some of them have mental illness. Some of them need help more than scorn.
Yep.
But whatever the case is, and we should be generous to people who are sleeping outside in the cold, that's obviously not what they want to do with their life. But that has turned the parks of Toronto into dangerous places, and you yourself were attacked by a dog.
Yep.
And the reason I mention that is because Mocha, one of our journalists, he said, well, I live in that building right there. So there's all these young people in Toronto who live in these tall, tall towers, and they don't have a backyard, obviously. If maybe they have a tiny balcony, in many cases they don't. So they're in a small, expensive apartment. The restaurants are closed, the bars are closed, the gyms are closed, the stores are closed. But the parks cannot be used by them either because they're physically dangerous. What do they do with their lives? How do they get exercise? How do they meet people? Where do they go? And yet they are being harassed on the street for being in a cluster of 5 people. Unless you go to Costco or Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one outlet they're allowed to go to. So I saw all these contradictions, and I don't come downtown that often in Toronto because my life is more in the burbs. To see the decay and the hopeless, to see boarded up storefronts, especially for restaurants. I was driving by our favorite place on Eglinton West, all those Jamaican and Caribbean barbershops.
Yes.
Just that brown paper in the window. You know when that brown newsprint, it's not newsprint, it's just the paper that says, we're shut down. Barbershop after barbershop, restaurant after restaurant, to see the destruction of this great city and the police not attending to any of these issues, but going after the lockdown protesters. It was a very depressing day for me. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.